What most leaders, founders, and influencers fail to realize is that their personal story is a key asset in driving their impact, in getting greater custom for their service or product, in leaving a legacy, in instructing those around them, and in inspiring generations to come. I'm Andrew Morris, and I'm a writer and ghostwriter, and I work with people who've achieved things, who are in positions of influence to help them get their story out, whether in the form of a feature article or a series of articles or indeed an entire book. Let's dive in to why this is important, because over the coming days, I'm going to be writing articles on LinkedIn on various aspects of storytelling. And each week, I'm going to make a video like this to share an overview of what's coming in the articles so that we're both writing and speaking to each other. I'm going to share my screen and give you a little presentation on why I think that stories are central to success. Let's look at what leaders fail to understand about stories and why it's costing you. First of all, understand that the gap is real. You know your product from back to front, you know it inside out, you live and breathe it. Other people may not be in that space. They may not have the same understanding as you do of what you do. So that when they ask you what exactly it is you do in 30 seconds, a kind of elevator pitch, you may be at a loss, you may stumble. That makes people lose interest fast in an age where attention is a precious resource. And the third thing is that telling people what your product or service does, listing all the features, is not the same as telling your own story and has much, much less impact for reasons that we'll go into in a second. What's stopping people telling their story? Well, I think number one is the fact that people are often not aware of the importance of a story, an origin story, the story that took you from the position you were in before to realizing the need for this product or service and then to making it happen. That's a huge achievement. And there's probably a fascinating story in there. The confidence to tell your story, because most people don't think their stories are interesting. But I'm here to tell you that every single person on earth has a fascinating story, whether they're sweeping the streets, whether they're working in a factory, putting things in boxes all day long, whether they're handling baggage at an airport, or a CEO with a world leading innovative company. There is no such thing as an uncaptivating human story, but there are plenty of stories which are uncaptivatingly told. So the only difference is not between those stories which are interesting and those which aren't, because there are no uninteresting stories on the planet. The difference is between those which are well told and know how to reel people in, and those which are poorly told and leave people a little bit bored. Leaders, influencers, founders often don't have the time to sit down and tell their story. They've got so much going on, so many demands on their time that this gets pushed to the end of the queue. And people often say, when I'm retired, I'll write my story. But the time to do it is now while the information is fresh and why it can actually impact the, the success of what it is you've built and are continuing to build. And finally, a lot of people lack the skill to tell their story in a compelling way. So you may have all the elements, you may be aware of them, but telling the story is a skill. And that's where I can come in and help you to get that out there into the public in a way that leaves people no choice but to opt in to your story. Think of it as people on two sides of a river. If you want people on the other side of the river to come across and read your story and engage with you, then you have to send a boat across to bring them over. They're not going to jump into the water and swim across. They've got other things to do on the other riverbank. If you need them to be part of your story, to take an interest in you, you have to send that boatman and that boat across and bring them over to you. That's a fundamental aspect. And that's a skill. It's something that I can do. I do every day for my clients, but it's something we can definitely do together. Stories, you need to understand this, are hardwired into us. We have always told stories ever since we sat around the campfire outside our cave. And indeed, in the caves, those wall paintings are nothing but stories left for other people and for generations to come. There's a huge difference in our brain between when we hear a series of logical facts and when we hear a story. All kinds of centers light up. Why? Because a story is not just about data, it's about emotion, it's about buy in, it's about memory, it activates things within us from our own lives, and it helps us make decisions. So, facts inform, but stories make people feel and emote and ultimately act. Human stories have a particular role to play within the, the range of stories that exist. Have you ever noticed that when you go to Facebook, you might see any photograph of any person you know. And if that photograph is nicely taken, you will like that picture, even if you haven't interacted with that person for quite a long time. Why? Because we respond to human faces. We're hardwired to do that as well. I've liked hundreds of pictures over the last year, portraits of people I've never met, but we're connected on Facebook simply because I think, wow, that's a face. And we love faces. And the picture can be old and wrinkled or young and beautiful. It doesn't matter. We respond to that human signal of two eyes looking out at us. Other thing is that with a story which is human, we respond to the success, to the anguish, the torment, the challenge, the excitement, if that comes across in the story and if it's subtly told. So there's a large part of us, an emotional part, which reaches out through the story to the person who's telling it. Stories also help you stand out. Don't forget that hundreds of people are providing services similar to yours, products similar to yours, similar features, different pricing perhaps, similar pitch decks, but none of them have your story in the same way as none of them has your face, none of them has your voice. So telling that story helps you stand out above the others, particularly because on LinkedIn, I saw the other day, it's 1% of the entire population of LinkedIn who regularly post. The rest are lurkers, and they're waiting to be told stories. They're waiting to be inspired by people like you. Often, a story of a founder or a leader goes back to that seed, the moment of origin where the idea first came across. The day you decided to become a leader, the day you decided to launch this product. And taking us all the way back there is often a pivotal point and a crucial part of your story. And by pinpointing that moment and evoking maybe what was happening around you that day, what had happened just before, what happened just after, how you felt, we can connect to your why, which is a key part of your motivation. And again, unveiling that why, unpacking it for other people and showing them your motivation, showing them what took you from where you were before to the point where you decided to do this is something so visceral that most human beings on the planet will connect and link it to something that they've experienced and either be inspired to do something similar or begin to ask themselves why they haven't and maybe make a small change in their own lives. Now, the origin moment is just one part of it. And I think it's always good for you as a leader to think back to that key moment, but it's only one part of your story. We need to add color. We need to show your personality. We need to share your vision as well as focusing in on that moment. And that's where the craft and the skill comes in. And if you don't have the time, well, then let's work together so that I can help you do that in whatever form you want, 1,000 words, 5,000 words, several articles, or a book, which is 40, 50,000 words. So let's connect. Let's talk together about how I can help you get that story out. Please comment below here on the video or send me a DM, and I would be delighted to spend time with you, listen to your story, and find immediately the best way to tell it. And do look out over the days to come on LinkedIn, where I'm at Andrew Morris writes, look out for the stories that I'll be telling about storytelling, because that also is a story. See you then. So I'm back in the room, and I enjoyed telling you about storytelling because it's something I feel very passionate about. It's something that I think has so much potential for everyone, but we suppress it because we're afraid of the act of storytelling, or we think we're not important enough, or we think we don't have a story to tell. That's completely wrong. Everybody has a fascinating story. It's just a question of telling it, sending that boat across the river, and bringing other people in. We've all experienced neighbors with their holiday photographs who've managed to kill all the excitement of what was potentially a very interesting trip. Let's do the opposite. Let's bring out the excitement. Let's edit and craft so that when people come and open our photograph album of our lives, that they lean in, they're fascinated by what we want to say, and they really stay with us until the end. And that's when they'll be inspired. That's when they'll want to connect with us, and that's when they'll want to buy whatever it is that we're selling. So stick around and we look more into this in the coming weeks. That's all for me today. Bye bye, and thanks for listening.